In January, everyone was transported to another world and transformed into animals. Some became tigers ruling the mountains, others giant pythons devouring the sky. Our protagonist, however, became a lowly spider. Fortunately, everyone was granted the ability to grow stronger through the act of hunting and purification. By earning purification points, one can constantly improve their abilities. Time flies, and as midnight arrives, anyone looking into this canyon would see something strange. They would see massive webs densely covering the corners of the gorge where he rests. Suddenly, a sharp vibration jolts him awake. Following the source of the shaking, we see a palm-sized mantis struggling desperately against the webbing, along with several other trapped insects. Moving stealthily, he weaves through the silk toward his distant prey. A moment later, he opens his mandibles wide. With a crisp crunch, he bites into the immobilized mantis, secreting venom from his glands and injecting it directly into the creature's body. These actions are driven by the primal instincts etched into his new form. No practice or learning was required, it seems. Aside from the head, most of the mantis soon ends up in his stomach. System alerts chime as he gains experience from the meal. As he continues to feed, the notifications keep coming, and we see his blue attribute bar steadily rising toward the limit. Finally, a chime announces he has leveled up. Immediately, a surge of heat flows through his small body. Accompanied by a low, terrifying rumble, his entire frame begins to tremble and expand outward. He is growing. This is the inherent balance of this world. Those born as powerful animals or plants find it much harder to evolve, requiring massive experience. Conversely, weaker species find early evolution quite simple, needing only a few successful hunts to complete their initial transformation. However, this is merely evolution, not a change in rank. Evolution only strengthens the species' natural limits, which are quite real. After all, a spider can only become so strong before it hits a ceiling. It can never naturally surpass a tiger. That is where evolution points come in. With enough points, those natural limits can be shattered entirely. To be honest, it is the only way for a small spider to survive. Several days pass, during which he remains obsessed with hunting and feeding. We see him consuming a rabbit as the experience points roll in. He finishes off a level 5 rabbit, gaining 5 evolution points. The constant stream of notifications confirms his steady progress in this dangerous world. Inside the gorge, a black spider, now slightly larger than a human fist, moves its 8 dark legs across the carcass of a gray rabbit to begin its meal. As the rabbit's remains steadily disappear, a flood of notifications appears on his attribute panel. At the same time, a surge of heat rushes through his frame. This is evolution. He is now advancing toward level 5. During this brief window, his attributes climb higher and higher. A chime announces he has reached the limit of his current species, and the conditions for a rank advancement have been met. He is prompted to choose a path: the scythe spider, which uses its legs as razor-sharp blades to slash enemies, or the venom spider, which focuses on toxins, or perhaps a path focused on his webs. But he doesn't hesitate for a second. He chooses the scythe spider. This path doesn't just offer a massive boost to his attack power, it also significantly increases his agility. With 8 reinforced legs, he will naturally run much faster. After all, in the heat of battle, he is bound to encounter enemies he simply cannot defeat. He isn't foolish enough to think a single god-tier silk ability makes him invincible. The system warns him to ensure his surroundings are safe. He has 10 minutes to complete the advancement. No sooner are the words spoken than he feels a sudden, scorching heat. A torrential flood of energy, like a rushing river, wells up from deep within his body, accompanied by an unimaginable wave of pain that submerges his entire being. His consciousness fades into chaos, leaving him in total darkness. Time passes slowly, and soon, 10 minutes have vanished. If we were to look into that corner of the canyon now, we would find a massive white cocoon, the size of a ball, lying silently on the ground. However, it isn't pure white. It is tinged with a streak of crimson, as if stained by blood. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoes from within the cocoon. This is followed by a series of sharp, rhythmic cracks as the entire structure begins to shatter apart. From the wreckage emerges a truly massive spider. It looks as if it were carved from black jade, adorned with purple markings and sharp, terrifying mandibles. But the most frightening feature is the pair of front legs, which have transformed into literal blades. Yes, actual blades. They shimmer with a dark, metallic luster, cold, sharp, and utterly lethal. To be honest, he looks like a completely different creature now. His new form is sleek, radiating a sharp, dangerous edge. He is now a scythe spider, a lower-tier monster. In this world, they are known as terrifying small predators, using their blade-like legs as lethal weapons to slash through prey. His exclusive skill, Continuous Slash, allows him to strike with such speed that his blades literally tear through the air. He quietly observes the pale blue interface. A lower-tier monster, then? This seems to be how the world classifies its inhabitants. Above lower tier, there must be mid-tier, and then high tier. He wonders about that person from earlier. The one who boasted of a giant python with 30 strength and 40 constitution. Surely that was also a lower-tier beast. After all, his own stats aren't far off now. His species is scythe spider, his strength is 10, and his agility is 20. His constitution stands at 16, with spirit at 12. For context, a normal human averages 10 in every category. His skills now include god-tier silk spinning and that deadly continuous slash. We see him turn his attention back to the regional chat, scrolling through messages to find news of that giant python. Sure enough, he finds him. The man is clearly a show-off, reveling in his perceived invincibility since the very start. The man brags about killing a massive boar, boasting that after 7 long days, he has finally leveled up once. His strength is now 32 and his constitution 42. He even mocks a wolf for being unable to bite through his thick hide. Reading these humble brags, our spider's eyes can't help but twitch. To be honest, that level of defense is truly frightening. Still, he gathers useful intel. It took 7 days to level up once. It seems the more powerful the creature, the more experience it requires. He also notes the python gained 2 points per stat, while he usually gains only 1. Sometimes he only gains half a point. He continues to mutter to himself, organizing these thoughts as they come. Just then, he spots a crucial piece of information in the chat. Someone discovered that exercise can actually increase stats. A player with a bear avatar claims that doing sit-ups actually raised their strength. Well, that is certainly a revelation. He is stunned by the sheer realism of this world. If training can truly improve one's mind and body, then it seems we cannot rely solely on levels to judge a creature's true power. He realizes that constant observation and analyzing his status panel is key. The interface reveals a clear pattern. Creatures that haven't reached the lower-tier monster rank gain very little when leveling up their strength or agility. Their stats only increase by a single point, or sometimes a meager 0.5. However, lower-tier monsters like that giant python or the great wolf see their strength, agility, and constitution increase by a full point or more. The python excels in defense and power, so its growth in those areas is particularly striking, gaining 2 points per level. As for its agility, it only gains 1 point, or sometimes even less. The wolf, on the other hand, favors speed, gaining 2 points in agility while the rest grow by 1. This is the inherent advantage of one's race. As a lower-tier monster, his growth potential is naturally superior to that of an ordinary wild beast. If his theory is correct, his own agility growth should be 2 points per level. This means that with every single level he gains, he will become increasingly nimble. Deep down, he feels a surge of genuine anticipation for what he might become. But for now, he must adapt to this new body. Suddenly, with a sharp whistle of air, his 6 legs move in a blur of terrifying speed. From a distance, we would see only a dark shadow flickering past, far too fast for the naked eye to track. He looks at the clean cut he left behind and clicks his mandibles in surprise. His strength is only 10, yet combined with his continuous slash skill, he can slice through a large tree with a single strike. Such lethal power certainly justifies his title as a lower-tier monster, but he knows it isn't enough. A faint smile touches his face as he climbs a high mound to survey the entire canyon. It is time to expand his hunting grounds. This time, he won't just rely on weaving webs. He intends to use his speed to engage prey in close-quarters combat. Only then can his combat skills improve in a short time. In his past life, he was merely an ordinary human, a fact he hasn't forgotten. A look of cold determination settles in his eyes. To him, a true apex predator at the top of the food chain must be flawless and without weakness. That is his small goal, to stand at the very peak as the ultimate hunter. At first, such a dream seemed impossible. But after his god-tier enhancement, he now possesses infinite possibilities. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from the outer edge of the canyon. We look toward the sound to find a football-sized spider locked in a fierce battle with a massive snake. That spider, of course, is our protagonist. Now his legs move like twin blades, slashing repeatedly and kicking up a shower of sparks. But this giant serpent is no simple foe. It is a level 6 iron wire snake, with a body as black as ink and skin as hard as stone. It may be slow, but if it catches you in its coils, or manages to land a single bite, even a monster like him would lose a layer of skin. Still, he wonders if this isn't the perfect sparring partner. As the giant snake lunges, he quickly sidesteps to create distance, simultaneously raising his bladed legs to deliver a heavy downward strike. A sharp metallic clang rings out, sounding more like a blacksmith's hammer than a hunt. He realizes his strength of 10 isn't quite enough for this defense. Without hesitation, he activates his continuous slash skill. Amidst the sudden roar of the impact, a warm current surges through his limbs. The energy flows through him as the snake suddenly accelerates, shooting straight toward him like a black arrow. The sudden burst of speed catches him off guard. He knows that if he's careless and takes a heavy hit, it could cost him half his life. His legs begin to twitch and vibrate with intensity. And then, in the very next moment, a truly terrifying scene unfolds before us. The iron wire snake, which had been charging with such momentum, suddenly and silently falls apart into several pieces. Blood sprays everywhere, staining our protagonist crimson. If we look closely at the air around them, we can see the secret. Glimmering, blood-stained threads have appeared out of nowhere. These are the webs he had already positioned in the air beforehand. Initially, these threads were soft and limp, but the moment he wielded and manipulated them with his legs, everything changed. These invisible lines tightened instantly, becoming as sharp and rigid as steel wires. To be honest, it's a brilliant use of his natural gifts. Because the threads are so fine, they are nearly impossible to see. The snake, unaware of the trap, charged right into them with full force. That immense momentum turned the threads into peerless blades that easily tore the creature apart. It is a terrifyingly efficient way to hunt. This represents a brand new way for him to use his silk in combat, constantly setting invisible traps that can be triggered in an instant. He realizes these threads are absolutely lethal against fast-moving prey. With a satisfied click, he begins to vibrate his legs once more. He carefully retracts the blood-stained silk. His webbing is precious and doesn't regenerate easily, so it's best to recycle what he can. As he begins to feast on the level 6 iron wire snake, the system chimes in his mind, granting him 60 experience points for his victory. With another 60 experience points added to his tally, the system notifications chime one after another. He is quite satisfied, especially since his evolution points are skyrocketing as well. He now has 120 evolution points. It seems that challenging higher-level foes truly does double the rewards. As he looks down at his status, we see his progress clearly. His experience bar has grown significantly. If all goes well, he will soon reach level 6 and evolve into a small scythe spider. To be honest, his growth is becoming quite formidable. As a spider, he has adapted well, but he still feels a lingering connection to the world he left behind. He turns his gaze toward the regional and world chats. Seeing so many grayed-out avatars, his pupils shrink. These are the people who couldn't adapt to this harsh new world. He has no idea if they return to their original world upon death, but one thing is certain. In this reality, they are gone. They have been eliminated from the game of survival. We can only imagine what those players with darkened icons experienced. Some likely became food, ending up in the bellies of monsters, while others met even darker fates. No matter the end, it was undoubtedly miserable. The despair they felt is simply beyond words. Lost in thought, he begins to read the final messages left by these fallen players. Their last words are haunting. "No, I don't want to die. Please, don't come any closer. Can anyone help me?" Another wrote, "Drive this wolf away. It's biting me. It's tearing my body apart. No, what kind of monster is this?" Amidst these cries of agony, one message stands out. It comes from an avatar that appears to be a human with a tiger's tail. In his previous life, this person was a man, but in this world, things took a strange turn. He had been reincarnated as a demi-human fox girl. However, the transformation wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was that he was now dead. His final words were, "It hurts so much. Please, if you remember we all came from Earth, remember to avenge me." The message continued, "Kill them. You must kill them. They are beasts, true monsters." Within those words of pure malice and hatred, he revealed a specific location and a tribe. No one knows exactly what he endured before he died, but one thing is certain. The moment his message ended, a heavy silence fell over the world chat. A collective sense of grief and shared tragedy ripples through the channel. One player responds, "Rest in peace, brother. I will be the one to avenge you." Meanwhile, deep within a mountain range, a massive, two-headed wolf with a terrifying appearance suddenly looks up and lets out a haunting howl toward the sky. That piercing cry echoes through the clouds, causing the entire mountainside to tremble. If we look closely at this moment, we might notice something unexpected. Deep within the eyes of this fearsome two-headed demon wolf, there is a hint of moisture. He recognized her. He recognized that fox girl as someone from his past life. She was his former roommate, identified by her unique signature and name. But before he even had the chance to find her, everything had already come to an end. She left this world so suddenly and so tragically. He wonders if this is the true nature of this world, a place where life ends in a single cry. The misery of it all is hard to ignore. With a grim smile, the wolf resolves to charge into that tribe and erase their very existence. But compared to this terrifying demon wolf, the World Chat channel has erupted into a rare frenzy after its brief silence. "Rest well, fellow Earthling. I will avenge you. Rest in peace, brother." The message is read. "As a fellow human from Earth, I'll take them down for you later. Damn it, how dare these natives bully us?" Death itself isn't scary, but dying like that is truly unbearable. One after another, countless monsters and creatures from all over the world share their thoughts on the matter. Even our protagonist, after a moment of hesitation, uses the World Channel for the first time to say, "Rest well. If fate allows, I will avenge you." Though his words seem indifferent, a flicker of ruthlessness flashes deep in his eyes. Players might be enemies to one another, but that player's final words shook many to their core. As fellow children of Earth, the inhabitants of this alien world are the true enemy. He has a faint feeling that they are evolving into what some might call the fourth calamity. While they grow, they must also attempt to conquer this vast and mysterious land. They must try to conquer this world, treading over the natives and all other obstacles. Players can fight amongst themselves, but they will never allow these so-called natives to look down on them. This world is truly cruel. Slowly, he raises his head to gaze at the deep blue sky, so different from Earth's. He remains silent for a long while. He must become stronger, much stronger. Otherwise, his own end might be just as grim. Now, slowly lifting his many legs, he decides to begin a new round of hunting immediately. A little later, we see him weaving his webs. One after another, massive, visible spider webs begin to appear all around the canyon. He won't just rely on close-quarters combat. He will also use his webs to hunt. This two-pronged approach is the only way to grow faster. After all, every prey represents experience and evolution points. To be honest, when it comes to hunting efficiency, he is likely faster than most. He can hunt in person or simply wait for the webs to catch his dinner. Just like now, a vibration from the void allows him to capture a bit of information. Has he caught another one? Judging by the movement, it seems to be a large prey. He smiles inwardly, satisfied with his progress. After his god-level reinforcement, his silk is terrifying. Once a prey is entangled, escape is nearly impossible, unless they are truly massive. Unless the very earth and trees supporting his webs are torn away, escaping through brute force alone is nearly impossible. We see him slowly raise his gaze toward the distance, where a series of shrill, piercing cries echo, sounds that resemble a wild boar. Clicking his mandibles in anticipation, he navigates through the canyon until he reaches a small clearing. There, right before his eyes, is a boar with long, menacing tusks, struggling desperately against the ground. This particular beast is massive, standing nearly 2 meters tall with a face full of ferocity and growing panic. It likely thought a few spider threads could never hold it back. However, the boar fails to notice that its constant struggling only causes more silk to entwine its body. Its movements grow sluggish as thin lines of crimson begin to seep from its hide. The bloody gashes deepen, turning gruesome until a small pool of red forms on the ground. This creature's vitality is quite impressive. Deep down, he decides not to alert his prey just yet. As a true hunter, he has plenty of patience to wait until the boar grows even weaker. There is no rush. He simply waits as several hours slowly drift by in the quiet canyon. During this time, he visits his other webs for a few quick snacks. They are mostly small insects, mere desserts before the main course. And now, under the cover of the night's shadows, we return to that clearing. The terrifying tusks of the boar are still visible, but the beast itself is now at death's door from massive blood loss and sheer exhaustion. With an inward smile, he begins to crawl slowly toward his prize. But suddenly, he senses something. Low, guttural growls erupt through the night air, breaking the silence. Looking toward the source, he sees a massive boar standing nearby, its blood-red eyes fixed firmly on his position. It seems it wants a staring contest. He gives a cold, silent laugh and wastes no time, firing a strand of silk directly at the intruder. With a sharp whistle, the reinforced thread shoots out at high speed, sounding like a gunshot. With a heavy thud, the tusked boar's massive body is struck as if hit by a literal bullet. Under the force of this terrifying silk projectile, even the bones beneath the boar's thick flesh are likely shattered. One can only imagine how terrifying his reinforced silk has become, and yet, this is only the beginning. With a series of sharp whistles, he repeatedly fires his silk strands. Accompanying each shot are the shrill, agonizing cries of the tusked boar echoing through the night. This creature is a level of existence far beyond its own, likely an 8th or even 10th level monster. Every attribute and ability surpasses his, so, for the sake of caution, he leaves nothing to chance. He remembers the bitter lessons of others. Why did it explode after death? Why did it unleash such power while wounded? Those bloody lessons are deeply engraved in his mind. Of course, we can't rule out that some lucky players might survive such things. But he has no intention of betting his life on luck. In true survival, there is no room for fluke chances. To be honest, it's a wise policy. When facing a creature so far above his level, no amount of caution is ever wasted. Time passes slowly, and not long after, a roar breaks out. With one final, wretched wail, the massive tusked boar finally collapses to the ground. We see its life force slowly fade away into the silence. Is it finally dead? He lets out a sigh of weary relief. It truly was a monster with incredibly thick hide. In his past life, a normal boar, or any other creature would have died from a single shot. Yet this beast, even in its weakened state, endured 6 of his projectiles. Clicking his mandibles in a mix of awe and hunger, he cautiously approaches the massive carcass. A moment later, a series of crunching sounds fill the air. He has opened his mouth and begun to feast greedily on the boar's flesh. A notification chimes. He is consuming a tusked boar king. Experience points increase by 200, then another 200. As the notifications continue to chime, we see his experience bar rising steadily. Suddenly, a familiar surge of heat wells up from deep within his body. This is the power of evolution, pushing him toward level 7. His agility and constitution begin to grow. However, perhaps because the tusked boar king was so remarkably sturdy, his constitution attribute sees a rare, significant jump of 1.5 points. It seems his growth varies depending on the specific prey he hunts. In a soft, internal murmur, he notes this small but vital detail. If this is true, he'll need to hunt these boar kings often to build his strength. With a smile in his heart, he looks forward to the future. But in the very next moment, a scene unfolds that leaves him utterly stunned. As he continues to feast, we see something truly remarkable. His experience bar is still climbing at a rapid pace. And even more terrifying, clear lines of text begin to float before his eyes. A notification informs him that by consuming the Tusked Boar King, he has acquired the skill, Savage Charge. The system asks if he wishes to learn it. Savage Charge consumes a portion of stamina to launch a terrifying assault, doubling his strength momentarily while vastly increasing his speed. However, it requires 24 points in Constitution. He stares at the screen, his pupils contracting as he considers the skill. This is likely a unique skill belonging only to the Tusked Boar King. He hadn't expected to gain such a power just by eating, which, to be honest, is a lucky break. Is this a benefit for every player, or is it a gift meant only for him? For now, he realizes that wondering about the why isn't as important as the how. Exhaling deeply, he turns his gaze toward his Constitution attribute. Previously, it stood at 18, and upon reaching level 7, it rose to 19.5. Although his experience bar continues to grow as he eats, it's clear that this meal alone won't be enough to trigger another full evolution just yet. This means his Constitution isn't quite high enough to learn Savage Charge. Fortunately, this is exactly where his evolution points come into play. With a quiet murmur, he decides to spend 1,000 evolution points to strengthen his physical form. This is the true power of these points. After all, they can reinforce his body, sharpen his fangs, or even enhance his innate abilities. Strengthening his entire frame, however, is a costly endeavor. It requires a full 1,000 points, which he has been slowly accumulating until now. He currently sits on a hoard of 1,200 evolution points. Without further delay, he commits the 1,000 points to his body. Suddenly, a low rumble, like the surging of a great river, echoes from deep within him. He can feel the energy exploding from the depths of his being. Imagine the sensation, wave after wave of raw power flooding through your veins. This torrent of energy feels sharp, like needles pricking every inch of his skin. If we were to look at his status panel now, we would see a dramatic transformation taking place. His Constitution, strength, and agility are all seeing significant growth. His race is listed as a scythe spider, a specialized evolution of the small spider. He has 200 evolution points remaining. His strength is now 16, agility is 27, Constitution has hit 24, and spirit is at 12. For context, a normal human averages 10 in each attribute. With every major advancement, these stats can double, and each level up brings further specialized growth. The more powerful the race, the more terrifying this growth becomes. And here we see his primary talent, killing evolution. His innate adaptability is staggering. His god-tier silk allows him to spin threads, while his scythe slash delivers blade-like strikes that can greatly enhance the power of his attacks. He also possesses bristles, allowing him to instantly raise his body hair like steel needles to impale his enemies. As he quietly observes his current status panel, he feels a slight tremor of excitement. This is the result of a full-body evolution. Strength, agility, and constitution have all increased by 5 points. More importantly, he has gained that bristle skill, giving him total control over his fur to make it stand on end in an instant. With a mere thought, he tests it, manipulating his black fur until every single hair stands up slowly. From a distance, he looks far more menacing, like a tiny, ferocious hedgehog. This bristle skill is a fantastic defensive tool for close-quarters combat, which, let's face it, is where he thrives. But that isn't the main event. The truly vital acquisition is the Tusked Boar King's ability, Savage Charge. Without hesitation, he chooses to learn it. As soon as the words leave his mind, a flood of information pours into his brain. Simultaneously, waves of crimson energy begin to surge from deep within the Tusked Boar King's carcass, flowing directly into him. This energy is strange. It doesn't merge into his limbs or veins. Instead, it swirls around his body before gradually fading away. A moment later, as he whispers the name of the skill, Savage Charge, he suddenly feels his entire frame shudder. That hidden crimson energy erupts in an instant, surging forth. Then, with a thunderous boom, his entire body transforms into a streak of crimson light, charging into the distance. He leaves a wake of dust behind him, and even the massive boulders blocking his path are shattered to pieces. This is the power of the Tusked Boar King's Savage Charge. It consumes a bit of stamina for doubled strength and a massive speed boost. To him, it's the ultimate escape skill. Yes, you heard that right. An escape skill. He has no intention of using this for a head-on suicide mission. Survival is far more practical. And since he already specializes in speed, activating this ability makes his movement truly absurd, making it perfect for a quick getaway. As for the Tusked Boar King, its massive size and strength made it hard to flee. Its best option was always a desperate, all-or-nothing strike. It's quite easy to understand why. The Boar King's strength was already terrifying, and doubling it meant unleashing 40 or 50 points of raw power. Such force, combined with that massive body, could split mountains. But our little spider is different. His strength is only 16, doubling to a mere 32. Furthermore, because he is so small, his impact is nowhere near as terrifying as the Tusked Boar King's. Consequently, this ability isn't actually best used for attacking, but for making a quick getaway. It is, in essence, another trump card for survival. Panting slightly, he feels the weight of exhaustion. Using this skill drains nearly half of his stamina, a sensation he likens to a long-distance race from his past life. Back then, his constitution wasn't exactly athletic, and running a kilometer left him feeling utterly depleted. Now, a single skill makes him feel exactly that same level of fatigue. He sighs inwardly, realizing this is definitely not a technique he can afford to use frequently. To use it and then try to fight another monster would be no different from a suicide mission. Still, the power is undeniably frightening. Turning around slowly, he gazes at the long trench stretching out behind him. His pupils shrink at the sight of the mess his savage charge left behind. His 6 legs had torn into the earth, and everything in his path, trees and boulders alike, was shattered to pieces, unable to slow him down for even a second. He clicks his mandibles, impressed by the sheer lethality of this power. Now, he must adapt to this skill while getting used to his newly strengthened body. Time flows steadily, and soon, half a month has passed. During these weeks, his growth has become increasingly formidable until he finally reaches level 9. To give you an idea of what that means, while his mental stats remain stable, his other average attributes are all nearing 25. Most impressively, his agility has soared to 31. Such high agility has pushed his speed to a level that can only be described as superhuman. Naturally, his physical size has also increased. From a distance, he now looks to be about the size of a basketball. His front legs, sharp as scythes, glint with a cold, eerie light. His other 6 legs prop up his body, while his 8 compound eyes flicker with a predatory intensity that would make anyone shiver. Exhaling deeply, he feels a sense of satisfaction with his progress. When it comes to growth speed, he is likely among the top tier of all players. He knows this because he frequently browses the chat channels, which have given him a much deeper understanding of this world. For instance, he's learned that monsters vary wildly in strength. While some are weak like his current form, the truly powerful ones possess world-ending strength beyond human imagination. According to one player's description, they supposedly saw a dragon, a literal fire dragon from myth and legend, its body wreathed in flames that flowed like liquid gold. With a single roar, the dragon shattered the clouds. Its terrifying heat could be felt from thousands of meters away, as if the very air itself were being ignited. This was a dragon, a supreme being at the absolute apex of the food chain, a true predator among predators. It's hard for us to imagine just how frightening this world is, knowing such creatures exist. And yet, there is more to the story. Browsing the chat channels, he discovers that some players haven't even been born yet. Yes, you heard that right. They are still in eggs. According to their descriptions, they are conscious but unable to move. This realization makes everyone, including our protagonist, feel a slight shiver. These players are no longer wide-eyed novices. Having survived a month in this world, they've gained a grim understanding of its inner workings. To still be unhatched while constantly cultivating and growing stronger within a shell, that only happens with legendary, high-level monsters. It means some people are born at a peak that others can't even imagine. It's enough to make anyone envious, though he knows better than to dwell on it. There is one small mercy. These elite beings haven't hatched yet, giving ordinary players a much-needed grace period to catch up. Otherwise, the unfairness would be enough to make him curse. He started as a tiny spider, while others starred as high-ranking monsters. Perhaps some are even dragons. Deep down, no one would feel balanced facing that reality, but he knows that inequality is a constant. Just like in his past life, some are born at a finish line that others spend a lifetime trying to reach. The trick is to keep a steady mind. Besides, it's worth noting that most players have only reached level 3 or 4 by now. Even the fast ones are only at level 5 or 6. For a monster like him to reach level 9 in just 1 month is, quite frankly, terrifying. He hasn't seen anyone else grow this quickly. To be honest, it makes sense when you think about it. Other players have to fight, nurse their wounds, and then rest for days. But he is different. With his god-grade silk, he possesses a natural advantage in hunting that others can only dream of. While he does practice his melee skills, he mostly relies on his webs to trap prey effortlessly. While others might kill a dozen monsters a month, he has easily taken down 40 or 50. His harvesting efficiency is simply on another level. Unless a player started with a massive advantage, it's nearly impossible for them to keep pace with him. Take, for instance, that player Juming, who started with 40 constitution and 30 strength. While he doesn't know Juming's current level, he knows he couldn't compete with him yet. But in terms of growth speed, he is surely elite. He ranks quite high among the player base, though in terms of raw strength, he isn't quite top tier yet. Of course, if he factors in his god-grade silk, even against someone like the mighty Juming, he wouldn't be without a chance. Constant analysis and reflection are essential for growth, but we must admit that the chat channel is a wonderful thing. It greatly expands one's perspective and, more importantly, allows for comparison. Without that channel, he might still assume he was just a weak, insignificant player. But now, it's clear he isn't weak at all. At least his growth speed is firmly in the top tier. He tells himself that with just a little more time, he will surely surpass everyone. A surge of ambition leaves him feeling rather excited. However, before that happens, there is weaving to be done. He intends to weave a massive web across This entire canyon. From now on, this place will be his Ponzi Valley, his very own private hunting paradise. It's just a pity, really, that those 7 famous spider spirits aren't here. With a small sigh, he finds himself wishing for the company of 7 spider sisters. In the old legends, those sisters were loyal and righteous, even if they wanted to eat the monk. They were never cruel to their own kind. If he had 7 sisters like that to help him hunt, his growth speed would likely skyrocket. As for trusting any other sisters, well, to be honest, he simply doesn't trust anyone. In his eyes, the only ones who could be considered teammates are other spiders, and even they aren't necessarily reliable. After all, spiders are known for cannibalism. It's a grim reality of their nature. So, in this world, he realizes he must remain solitary and rely only on himself. Anything else is just a pleasant daydream. And yet, just as he is settling into this thought, something else crosses his mind, causing him to pause for a moment. If he remembers correctly, the local regional chat channel has recently been buzzing with talk of offline meetups. They've even started forming these strange little teams. Can you imagine it? A rat and a snake teaming up together, or a wolf and a rabbit forming a party. It's a truly absurd image, isn't it? The thought makes his eyes twitch in disbelief. No matter how he looks at it, the whole idea feels completely unreliable. It's a recipe for disaster, really. When the critical moment comes, they might not sell each other out immediately, but they'll certainly scatter the moment danger appears. With a sigh, he decides not to dwell on it. It's better to focus on himself. Right now, the most urgent task is reaching level 10. In a soft murmur, he looks at his experience bar with a burning intensity. Level 10 is a major threshold. They say that at level 10, a creature becomes a king among ordinary monsters. For humans and other races, it's a similar turning point. At this stage, whether you are a monster or a member of another race, you finally awaken your own unique talent, a power that sets you apart from the rest. Yes, a talent, a terrifying ability that far exceeds conventional skills. It's much like the savage charge used by that massive fang boar king we saw earlier. And for our protagonist, reaching that level will change everything. He is now only a single step away from his goal. As night falls, a hazy moonlight spills down, draping the earth and the canyon in a thin layer of silvery dust. At that very moment, in a corner of the mountain not far away, a wild wolf, noticeably larger than its peers, huddles alone in the shadows. It whimpers like a shivering child, its body trembling uncontrollably. In his past life, this wolf was merely an ordinary, shut-in gamer. He never imagined he would be transported to an otherworldly realm, let alone become a green wolf. Fortunately, since most of humanity was reborn as well, his heart felt a slight sense of relief. However, just as he began to believe his powerful new form made him the chosen protagonist of this world, reality dealt him a heavy blow. A terrifying monster had set its sights on him, tearing through his defenses in an instant and leaving him heavily wounded. Even now, blood seeps from one of his eyes. The unimaginable pain causes his entire frame to shake without end. Just you wait. I will definitely kill you, he mutters with a voice full of venom. Dragging his battered and unsteady body, the green wolf begins to limp toward the foot of the mountain. The deep woods are far too dangerous now. Leaving is his only choice. Not long after, he finds himself staring at a grim canyon that looks like the gaping maw of a giant beast. Deep in the green wolf's eyes, a flicker of unease passes. For some reason, a sudden, heart-pounding sensation surges within him. But then, he hears a low hum. Accompanied by a terrifying roar, countless colorful elements begin to swirl and gather in the center of the canyon like a violent storm. The sight is almost painful to behold. The green wolf's eyes widen, and a flash of feverish excitement crosses his gaze. An evolution, it's an evolution. And judging by the sheer scale of the commotion, this is no ordinary monster reaching its next stage. He swallows hard instinctively. His heart begins to race with greed. A monster in the middle of evolving hates to be disturbed. More importantly, it is at its absolute weakest. If he could hunt this creature down, he would surely grow stronger. Then, he could finally seek revenge on his great enemy. With that thought, the green wolf suppresses his aura as much as possible and slowly creeps toward the depths of the canyon. Soon enough, he sees it. He actually sees it. In the deepest part of the canyon sits a massive white cocoon. This giant shell is roughly the size of a basketball, its surface shimmering with a hazy, ethereal glow. Countless elements seem drawn to it, pouring into the white cocoon as if answering a call. But what truly shocks the green wolf is the sight surrounding the cocoon, a dense, intricate network of white webs that has transformed the entire canyon into a world of silk. We know this canyon was once lush and green throughout the seasons, yet now, for hundreds of meters, the entire area is draped in layers of white. In this webbed world, many trees have withered away, while countless strands of silk shimmer like spirits in the air. And right there, caught in those webs, we see avian monsters trapped in the silk, rabbits crying out in distress, and even giant pythons struggling desperately against their bonds. The green wolf draws a sharp breath, unable to hide his horror. This is simply too terrifying. What kind of demonic spider could be hiding here, capable of weaving such a ghastly network? His thoughts racing, he takes the rare step of posting in the regional chat under his handle, Lone Green Wolf. My god, do you guys have any idea what I'm looking at? It's a world of silent, white death made of webs. A user named Little Sister Squirrel asks what it is. Another user, Great Python King, tells them to stop wasting time, reminding them they only have 3 chances to speak per day. Lone Green Wolf replies that he doesn't know. But it's terrifying. More importantly, it seems the spider here is evolving. Brothers, I think my big break has finally arrived. Great Python King is stunned. I'm so jealous. To encounter an evolving monster, you must be the chosen protagonist of this realm. Go quickly, this is your chance to soar. Little Sister Squirrel echoes the sentiment. One after another, the 3 most talkative members of the regional chat go back and forth with their comments. This green wolf is indeed the same person we saw earlier in the chat. Little did we expect he would be the one to stumble upon our protagonist's Silk Valley. However, just at that moment, the green wolf's pupils suddenly contract as he spots something else. There, on one side of the canyon wall, he sees row after row of tally marks carved into the rock. A sudden chill washes over him, and the green wolf falls into a heavy silence. These look like characters from his past life, used perhaps to keep track of time. This means the creature inside is a player, a realization that gives him pause. His eyes flicker with uncertainty, but he chooses not to share this particular detail in the regional chat. Chatting is one thing, but meeting a player in reality is a different matter entirely. To be honest, the most crucial factor is that this fellow player is currently in the middle of an evolution. Should he cooperate or compete? Suddenly, he recalls the system's earlier warnings and that one vital rule. In this world, there are no true allies. Exhaling deeply, the green wolf casts his hesitation aside. His own survival is what matters most. After all, he is already at level 8. If he devours this evolving monster, he might skip level 9 entirely and charge straight toward level 10. Such an opportunity is simply too tempting to ignore. Furthermore, he is currently blind in one eye, but he has heard that reaching level 10 brings a transformative change that might heal him. This baptism is more than a chance. It is a reshaping, a rebirth. He believes that through this evolution, he might even be able to heal his damaged eye. Don't blame me, he thinks, a ruthless glint flashing deep in his gaze. Blame your own bad luck. With that, the green wolf slowly opens his jaws. With a low roar, a visible swirl of green light begins to manifest within his mouth. This is the wind blade, the most terrifying ability of the green wolf. By gathering wind elements, he can spit out a blade of air nearly half a meter long, capable of tearing through anything in its path. While such a skill might be unremarkable for high-level monsters, among lower-tier creatures, it is exceptionally lethal. We should remember that these wolves usually hunt in packs. Dozens of them firing wind blades simultaneously could easily erase half a forest. Indeed, a pack of wind wolves is a nightmare most creatures hope to never face, a terrifying, suffocating force of nature. Now, as he gathers the wind in his throat, the green wolf's gaze is cold and calculating. To him, being fellow players from Earth means nothing. In the face of profit, even brothers might betray one another, let alone a complete stranger. With a low howl, he releases the strike. We watch as the half-meter-long blade of wind tears through the air, flying straight toward the giant cocoon deep within the canyon. However, in the next heartbeat, the green wolf's expression freezes in utter disbelief. What? He gasps instinctively. To be honest, he simply cannot process what he is seeing. His wind blade, which can slice through solid trees, has stopped dead against the dense layers of silk. It didn't even make it past the first layer. The green wolf is stunned. Surely this is a joke? How could mere silk block his signature move? Refusing to accept this, he opens his mouth once more. He fires a second wind blade toward the distant webs. We hear the sharp whistle of the air being sliced as the projectile flies forth again. But once again, the blade comes to a dead stop before the silk, exactly like the first one. This time, the green wolf is completely dumbfounded. For reasons he can't quite name, a very bad feeling begins to bubble up in his heart. And right then, as if sensing his presence, several strands of gold and silver spider silk, almost invisible to the naked eye, slice through the night sky and lunge toward him. Before the green wolf can even react, a sharp crack echoes as his entire body is pierced through. Yet, that isn't even the most frightening part. As more gold and silver strands whistle through the air, they form a massive, shimmering net that covers the wolf and slams him down. He is pinned firmly to the earth. His shrill, pained howls echo through the night, but they fail to cause even the slightest ripple in this silent valley. All that remains is the same dead silence and a growing sense of despair. Yes, despair. The green wolf player is utterly consumed by it. In this moment, he finally understands that he has provoked an existence he cannot afford to cross. This is no ordinary player, but a terrifying peak predator standing at the very top. He swallows hard, his throat tight with fear. The green wolf lets out a series of low, frantic growls, even going so far as to beg for help in the regional channel. Brothers, help me. I've provoked a high-level boss, and I'm pinned down by his silk. Please, someone. He is desperate, but the responses are less than sympathetic. Squirrel Girl and the Python King mock him, asking if his so-called territorial monster is actually just another player. The green wolf wants to scream back, but he is out of daily chat attempts. It's a hopeless situation. Now, his only prayer is that when this powerhouse awakens, he won't notice anything. Or perhaps, out of mercy for a fellow human from Earth, he might let him go. Meanwhile, inside the giant cocoon, we hear a soft murmur. So, this is level 10? Within that silence, he feels an indescribable power surging through his entire being. It is mana, pure magical energy flowing through his body. This is the true mark of a level 10 monster. They have become powerful enough to perceive the mana within themselves and, more importantly, to wield it. Whether it is used to enhance physical attributes or to empower skills, the results are formidable. As the mana surges now, his very limbs begin to glow with a faint, eerie light. This is his unique dark mana. As a dark attribute creature, his magical energy possesses a terrifyingly corrosive quality, capable of eating through almost anything. But that isn't all. Upon reaching level 10, he finally understands the true depth of his systems. Power, the God-tier enhancement system from his starter pack. Its real value lies in its ability to help him break through the natural shackles of evolution. For instance, when a skill reaches its maximum level and can no longer progress, this system allows him to shatter those limits and go even further. Take his Savage Charge skill. Once it reaches its limit, he can upgrade it entirely. At that point, the power of the charge becomes far more devastating, while the mana cost actually decreases. A perfectly ordinary skill in his hands could evolve continuously until it becomes a god-tier ability in the eyes of other players. That is the true terror of his system, and it is worth noting that evolution points have a similar function, but they have a strict ceiling. If you use evolution points on a common skill, you can only push it to the limit of a common skill. It can never naturally transcend into a god-tier move. Furthermore, the cost of evolution points doubles with every upgrade. One has to wonder, isn't it better to use those points to strengthen the body? After all, the true purpose of evolution points is to continuously strengthen the body to unlock more abilities. For example, if he uses evolution points to reinforce his carapace, that reinforced shell might eventually develop a new skill, like a thorn armor effect. Looking at it this way, we can see just how terrifying his system truly is. It is a golden finger in the truest sense. As he gazes at his list of skills, his eyes narrow slightly. His Savage Charge currently has a proficiency of 8 points. To take it further, he must reach 100. This means that once the skill proficiency is maxed out, he won't need evolution points at all. The system will upgrade the skill directly. And since Savage Charge can evolve through repeated upgrades, it will eventually undergo a true metamorphosis. This is the most frightening part. He realizes he can save all his evolution points to strengthen his physical body. He begins to whisper a plan for the future, a strategy that will serve as his guarantee for reaching the summit. After all, there are countless players more talented or naturally stronger, and he has never considered himself superior to others. But with this system, everything changes. He will eventually be draped in god-tier skills. A faint smile plays on his lips. He is quite satisfied with this system, as it will drastically accelerate both his growth and combat power. Just then, as if remembering something, he turns his attention to his status panel. Upon reaching level 10, he has also awakened a new innate talent. His race has evolved from a small spider to a scythe spider. He is level 10 with 1,600 evolution points. His strength is 22, agility 32, constitution 29, and spirit 12. For context, a normal human averages 10 in each attribute. His talents include slaughter evolution and adaptability. He has a new talent skill, Puppet Thread, level 1, which allows him to spread silk over a target's body to control them silently. We also see Mana Control, level 1, allowing him to manipulate energy to briefly enhance his body. Then there is God-tier Silk Spit and 4-Thread Slash, level 1, a scythe-like strike that greatly increases his cutting power. Finally, Bristle, level 1 allows him to instantly raise his body hair like steel needles to impale enemies. He watches quietly, his gaze focusing specifically on that Puppet Thread talent. The name alone suggests how terrifying this ability is, the power to control others without a sound. What's more, this ability can continue to grow. Currently, he might only be able to capture a few targets, but as it levels up, it will become increasingly sinister and bizarre. Based on his calculations, if this ability evolves to a god-tier level, he could potentially control any living creature in total silence. He clicks his tongue in amazement, and it is worth noting that these innate talents are far superior to standard skills. The proficiency required for these talents is exactly half that of a normal ability. For instance, if a standard skill needs 100 points, his Puppet Thread talent would only require 50 to reach level 2. This advantage is already formidable in the early stages, but it becomes truly lethal later on, as proficiency requirements increase tenfold with every single level gained. To reach level 2, one needs 100 points. For level 3, it jumps to 1,000. By the time a skill reaches level 3, climbing to level 4 requires 10,000 points, and the leap from level 8 to level 9 demands a staggering 1 billion proficiency points. In a sense, reaching the peak is almost impossible, though fortunately, this world contains rare treasures that can boost proficiency gains. Beyond level 9 lies the realm of god-tier skills. We can only imagine how terrifying it is that he starts with 1. A god-tier ability's raw power might vary, but it represents infinite possibilities and unimaginable potential for its wielder. If he continues to develop his silk, all sorts of world-shaking abilities will emerge. He has already envisioned many ways to use it. Though, to be perfectly honest, his current strength is not yet sufficient to realize them all. He looks at the strands of silk hanging in the air. They are crystal clear, finer than ordinary silk, and nearly impossible to detect. They possess a strange power to perfectly adhere to a creature's body and influence its movements. This is the puppet thread. With a quiet smile, he looks forward to seeing this power bloom. But for now, it is time to head out into the world. He raises a leg and tears through the massive white cocoon that protected him. Suddenly, however, his heart skips a beat. He feels a subtle vibration in his web. Someone has disturbed it, and not by accident, but with a deliberate, forceful attack. Whispering to himself, he turns his gaze toward the canyon entrance, where a giant green wolf lies pinned to the ground. The wolf is in a pathetic state, bound to the earth by countless threads, its body covered in bloody gashes where the silk cut deep. It seems this creature struggled quite a bit, but what truly surprises him is the strangely human expression of grievance on its face. The creature's face is a mask of humiliation and bitterness. Suddenly, as if sensing something, it snaps its head up, its eyes exploding with a strange, frantic light. With an excited, guttural howl, the green wolf struggles to lift a single movable paw, desperately scratching at the dirt beneath it over and over again. Looking closer, we see it is actually writing in the mud. He murmurs to himself, realizing this creature is actually a player, a mosquito player, as they say. It is indeed a player from Blue Star, and from his own country no less. But any sense of kinship is short-lived, as he notices something troubling. Too deep, heavy slash marks mar his web. If his silk hadn't been reinforced, making it incredibly resilient, this entire trap would have been shredded to pieces. Had the web failed, his evolution might have been ruined at the final moment. So, even if they are both players, what does that really matter now? He certainly doesn't consider himself a saint. A cruel smile touches his lips as he decides this is the perfect opportunity to test his new abilities. But first, he moves his legs, and the countless threads binding the giant green wolf begin to loosen. The beast lets out a series of low, eager whimpers. Filled with a mix of excitement and relief, the green wolf immediately begins writing in the dirt again. Thank you. I really didn't mean to intrude. I didn't want to disturb you, Great One. Please, let's team up. The wolf pauses, then adds another line. Great One, are you actually human? Silence is the only response. From a distance, the basketball-sized spider remains as cold and indifferent as ever. It is a scorching summer day. Yet for some reason, the wolf feels a sudden chill in its heart as a cold shiver runs down its spine. Great One, I truly didn't mean any harm. I'll leave right now, I'm going. With a surprisingly human gesture, the wolf waves a paw in a goodbye and decides it's best to make a run for it. It is terrifying, truly terrifying. Even though this spider is only the size of a basketball, its aura is the most frightening thing the wolf has ever encountered. Not even the mad wolf king he once saw was this imposing. Those scythe-like legs look like the coldest of weapons, sharp and unforgiving. A faint, eerie glow flickers around the spider, piercing the soul. And then there are the eyes, 8 of them, all staring, enough to make anyone's heart tremble. This is definitely the scariest player I've ever met, the wolf thinks, shrinking its neck in fear. It begins to shuffle slowly toward the canyon exit. However, in the very next moment, the green wolf's expression freezes. In a sudden, silent panic, it realizes something is very wrong. The wolf finds that its body will no longer obey. It is completely immobilized, as if bound by an invisible force. If it were to look up slowly now, it would see the truth. A network of countless threads, invisible to the naked eye, has already claimed its prize. He realizes he cannot control another's will, only their physical movements. Since he is still unpracticed, the control he exerts over the wolf is visibly stiff and awkward. Even with all 8 legs moving in sync, the green wolf's body moves in a way that feels utterly unnatural. To be honest, it's a bit unsettling. Amidst frantic, angry howls, the green wolf senses the bizarre state of its own body. But before it can let out another cry, we see a flash of movement. With a sharp hiss, another silk thread pierces the wolf's mouth, effectively sewing it shut. He simply hates noise, and a cold smile plays on his face. He continues testing this brand new ability. It's not bad. Although the movements are rigid, watching the wolf move according to his every whim is quite satisfying. The creature has truly become a puppet in his hands, devoid of any resistance. With a slight smirk, he watches his captive closely. He notices a faint, almost imperceptible flicker of resentment deep within the wolf's eyes. Clicking his tongue, he decides he's finished playing with this fellow. He generally prefers to avoid other players. They are far too clever, and one small mistake could lead to trouble, which, naturally, is a risk he won't take. Furthermore, players have access to the chat channel. If this wolf says the wrong thing before dying, it could be problematic. A ruthless light glints in his eyes. He forces the green wolf into a sudden, frantic sprint. The beast charges directly toward him, its paws thundering against the ground in a desperate, forced rush. As it nears, he raises his scythe-like legs high. The wolf screams internally, but it has no voice left to plead as the final blow is struck. The wolf's consciousness lingers just long enough to see its own headless body standing still for a moment. Blood erupts like a fountain, staining the earth crimson. Its awareness fades into a blur until it vanishes entirely. A clean kill, one strike, two halves, and no pain. Just the way he intended it. A notification suddenly floats before his eyes. You have slain a player. Green Wolf evolution points plus 400. This unexpected reward causes him to pause. Killing a player grants such a massive amount of evolution points, it almost feels as if the system is encouraging it. Intrigued, he shifts his focus to the chat channel, searching for similar information. Unsurprisingly, however, mentions of this are incredibly rare, almost non-existent, in fact. And who could blame them? No one would openly admit to hunting other players. In their past life, after all, that would have been considered murder. He shakes his head, pushing his doubts aside as he prepares to exit the chat. But in the very next moment, his focus sharpens instantly. His pupils contract as he spots several messages in the regional channel. They come from a user named Lone Green Wolf, and the words are chilling. That spider boss is terrifying. Great Python King, I think he's even scarier than you. My legs went weak just looking at him. The Lone Green Wolf's warning hangs there. The messages continue. What's happening? I can't move my body. What does this spider boss want? Hey, he wouldn't be controlling me, would he? Python King, help. What's going on? Squirrel Girl asks. Lone Green Wolf, what happened? No, he's going to kill. The words cut off abruptly, leaving the entire regional channel in a long, heavy silence. We see 1,000 players watching as the profile of the Lone Green Wolf, once the most active member, gradually fades into darkness. He's dead. Just moments ago, he was laughing and bragging about meeting a boss who had supposedly forgiven his trespasses. Now, there is only a chilling silence. Deep down, every player feels a sudden shiver. A fellow player has just died, and by the looks of it, he was killed by one of their own. Why would the Python King kill him? We're all from Earth. Shouldn't we be standing together? Amidst these sudden accusations, the great Python King, a player who started with 40 constitution and 30 strength, is absolutely livid. He is known for his bold nature, and this Green Wolf had spent his days flattering him in the chat. To be honest, he had grown quite fond of him. He had treated the fellow like a little brother, and they had even planned to meet up soon. But now, his subordinate is dead. His rage is beyond imagination, turning his expression terrifyingly dark. Deep within a distant mountain range, a sudden, sharp hiss echoes through the air. A massive rock python, 20 meters long and looking as though it were carved from granite, lets out a horrific roar that shakes the night sky. The ground begins to tremble as if a small earthquake has arrived. Meanwhile, our protagonist watches the chat, slightly surprised by the turn of events. He hadn't expected this fellow to have such strong ties to the Python King and the others in the regional channel. These people, could they be planning to form teams or even organizations like guilds? He murmurs to himself, lost in thought. It is certainly a possibility. The chat channel, especially the regional one, makes such things possible. As long as there is a player strong enough to offer protection, the seeds of a faction can easily take root. It seems the Python King is already heading in that direction. However, with a narrowing of his eyes, he pushes these thoughts aside. None of this concerns him. The strong walk alone. Only the weak huddle together for warmth. And, more importantly, he finds it hard to trust these players. Given the chance, they would likely stab him in the back. This isn't their old world, where laws kept people in check. In this new world, the shackles of law are gone, and a simple moral compass isn't enough to restrain human nature. Every betrayal is a possibility now. He has no desire to get involved in their drama, smiling inwardly as he focuses on his own path. We return to our protagonist, who decides to take responsibility for the remains of the Green Wolf. He looks down at the corpse, realizing the potential within. The power he wields is truly formidable, especially his dark magic, which exceeds all expectations as it surges through him. His limbs begin to glow with an ink-black, eerie light, and with a sudden, sharp sound, a massive boulder is torn apart like paper. The rock is fragile against his touch, the edges appearing corroded, a sight that would make anyone's pupils contract in fear. This is dark magic. Among all the elements, it is perhaps the most lethal. It lacks the explosive heat of fire or the bone-chilling frost of ice. But in terms of pure terror, it is unsurpassed. Dark magic simply ignores most defenses to corrode the enemy's body directly. It is, for all intents and purposes, true damage. One can only imagine how terrifying this power will become, though for now, his mastery is limited to simply coating his limbs in it. As for more advanced techniques, well, those haven't been developed yet. With a small sigh, he acknowledges that one cannot become a master overnight. Progress must be made one step at a time. Now it's time to explore. After all, the world beyond is waiting. More importantly, this narrow canyon can no longer satisfy his need for growth. With a slight curl of his lips, he feels a spark of anticipation for the world outside, wondering what wonders it holds. Amidst his quiet murmurs, a spider the size of a basketball climbs to the top of a ridge to look down upon the mountains. Beyond the web-spun valley lies an endless, ancient forest. This forest is nothing like the one from his past life. The trees are nameless, incredibly lush, and impossibly tall. Many of these giants reach dozens of meters into the sky. The trees are so dense that it's impossible to see what lies beneath their canopy. Even more unsettling is the fact that low, guttural roars occasionally echo from the depths of this vast green sea. The sounds are so primal and terrifying that even from this distance, they cause his heart to skip a beat. Fortunately, the roars are far away, so distant they almost feel like a hallucination. He takes a deep breath to steady his nerves. We can all understand that sudden chill of dread. Those roars belong to the terrors hidden deep within the mountains, beings far beyond his current strength. And yet, he finds himself looking forward to the challenge. With a soft, fearless chuckle, he reminds himself that everyone has to start somewhere. After all, according to the logic of this world, he is still in his infancy, not even close to reaching maturity. But with his evolution points and a healthy dose of caution, his future as a powerhouse is practically guaranteed. For now, however, his priority is to stay low and keep growing. With a quiet smile, he begins to carefully scale a truly massive tree. These giants are so enormous that even though he is now the size of a basketball, climbing them makes him feel as tiny as an ordinary insect from his past life. This scale, fortunately, provides the perfect cover for him to stay hidden. We see him moving through the branches, occasionally shooting a strand of silk toward a distant tree. Then, after tugging the silk to ensure it's secure, he lets his body swing downward. It looks a bit like a playground swing, but for him, it is the most efficient way to travel he has found so far. It's not only incredibly fast, but it also allows him to move like a ghost, leaving no trail behind. If we look closely at his silhouette, we notice he is actually hanging upside down from the branches, moving as easily as if he were on flat ground. To any human observer, this sight would be enough to make their eyes pop out of their heads. Imagine, it would be like a person walking casually across a ceiling. It's a terrifying thought, really, but for him, it is perfectly natural. As a spider, his 6 legs possess an incredible adhesive power that allows him to traverse any surface. Even as a magical beast, he knows he must master every innate advantage his species provides. He still hasn't quite figured it all out, though. He knows his reflexes are far beyond those of a normal human, but he can't quite describe or fully grasp the sensation. It feels as if a thin veil is blocking his understanding. Sometimes, he wonders if he should use his evolution points to enhance his brain capacity. The problem is that upgrading his mind requires a staggering amount of points, 2,000 to be exact, and despite his hard work, he has only accumulated about 1,700 so far. The mental upgrade will have to wait. For now, the most important task is the hunt. With a determined look, he picks up speed, darting through the dense foliage. He moves like a shadow through the trees, searching for his next target. Fortunately, this doesn't hinder his hunting. He quietly creeps through the canopy until he is directly above a rabbit, perfectly concealed by the shadows of the leaves. He begins weaving his silk with silent precision. Then, in a sudden flash, a white web expands as it flies through the air toward the unsuspecting rabbit. Suddenly, a low growl erupts, a sound one wouldn't expect from a rabbit. This creature, marked with strange flame patterns, reacts instantly by turning around. It opens its mouth wide, and with a sudden, violent roar, a blast of fire surges forth. The sound of the explosion echoes through the clearing. In that moment, we might expect the web to vanish. After all, ordinary spider silk is terrified of fire. Yet, his silk proves to be surprisingly heat-resistant. Despite the frantic, searing heat, the flame-patterned rabbit soon finds itself pinned beneath the weight of his reinforced webbing. It seems even a rabbit can breathe fire here. Truly, in this world, one can't afford to underestimate anyone. He muses on this absurdity while preparing his next move. He fires another web, firmly pinning the rabbit to the forest floor. His silk is a terrifying tool, possessing a unique ability to completely restrict an enemy's movement. It is a specialized trait that makes him a master of the hunt. Leaping down from his high perch, he strikes with a sharp sound. A spray of blood rises half a meter into the air as he delivers the finishing blow. The rabbit slowly collapses into a pool of blood. As he begins to eat, he notes that this level 6 flame rabbit provides 60 experience points per serving. The notifications continue to chime in his mind. Another 60 points, and another, as he steadily consumes his prize. Soon, half the rabbit has disappeared into his stomach. He finds the texture quite pleasant, to be honest, and is rather satisfied with the quality of the meat. It's actually tougher than the rabbit meat from his past life. It's a pity the creature couldn't cook itself with that fire before dying, but such is life. When survival is this difficult, one shouldn't dwell on such luxuries. It is better to focus on hunting and evolving. However, as he finishes his meal, he realizes an uninvited guest has arrived. It seems the thick scent of fresh blood has drawn a predator to this very spot. He slowly raises his gaze to find a massive serpent, 4 or 5 meters long, watching him. Its scales are a deep green, and its eyes are cold and terrifying. The serpent hisses continuously, and the temperature in the air seems to drop. Then, with a sudden, violent hiss, the standoff ends. The great snake lunges toward him like a green blur, its jaws wide. With a quiet snort, he easily tracks the serpent's rapid movements. However, he doesn't immediately use his king pig counter. Instead, his entire body leaps upward, proving his speed is second to none. Moving so fast he leaves afterimages behind. He becomes a dark blur that springs over 10 meters into the air. At that same moment, he prepares his legs for a coordinated strike. He begins gathering his strength for the next move. Amidst a series of sharp hisses, the serpent's blood, sharp as flying swords, hits him, tearing his flesh and burning like boiling oil. The sensation is far worse than a simple burn, as the venomous blood actually corrodes his body, making him grimace in sudden, sharp pain. He knew he couldn't underestimate the monsters of this world, so he quickly shoots a strand of silk toward a high branch above. The silk pulls his entire body upward. To be honest, who could have guessed that a serpent's very blood would be such a deadly weapon? If he had tried to eat it immediately, he might have lost his mouth entirely. Suppressing his shock, he steadies his mind and refocuses. Strangely, a sense of inexplicable joy begins to bloom in his heart. This, he feels, is the kind of real battle he has been craving. A grin spreads across his face as he looks down at the great serpent. His 8 eyes flicker with a faint, eerie light. Meanwhile, as his mana surges, a dark glow coats his limbs. This dark magic is capable of significantly boosting his physical attack power. He feels the strength flowing through him. As the serpent's hissing grows more terrifying, it suddenly unhinges its jaws, revealing a glowing ball of green light deep within its throat. Using the silk to swing his body, he instinctively performs a 180-degree mid-air rotation. It is a narrow escape, to say the least. He successfully evades the green projectile, but the massive tree behind him isn't quite so lucky as the venom begins to sizzle against the bark. The corrosive liquid eats a hole half a meter deep into the trunk. In the ensuing silence, he feels a cold shiver run down his spine. The chill reaches his very core. This serpent is proving to be quite a formidable opponent, seemingly mocking his lack of long-range attacks. Despite his frustrated cursing, he decides not to rely solely on his silk. The snake is strong, but still within his power to handle. He estimates the serpent is only level 7 or 8, but unlike the rabbits, this creature is a true master of the hunt. The creature is simply more skilled at attacking, which makes it appear more frightening, but he remains confident that his own methods are sufficient to handle it. Besides, it is rare to find such an opponent to sharpen his close combat skills, and with a focused gaze, he prepares for what comes next. Now, it is his turn to take the initiative. With a silent laugh in his heart, he leaps from the heights once again, though this time he doesn't move in a straight line. Instead of jumping directly at the serpent, he weaves back and forth between the massive trees. With his agility now reaching 30, the boost to his movement is significant. He moves with a speed that is truly beyond imagination. Since the serpent's eyesight is naturally poor, it finds itself unable to track his position, and that is when he strikes. With a sudden, violent roar, he drops down from behind the serpent to launch his assault, raising his sharp limbs high into the air. As dark energy flows through him, a murderous intent envelopes the serpent. Then, with a sudden boom, the great snake is sent flying backward by the force of his strike. If we look closely, we can see a massive wound has opened on the serpent's body. It seems his precision is as deadly as his speed. Amidst a series of shrill, piteous cries, the serpent struggles on the ground. A piercing pain spreads through its entire body, causing its massive frame to tremble. At this moment, he shows no mercy, his 6 legs tapping rapidly against the earth as he launches his entire body toward the serpent like a projectile. With one slash following another, he fixes his sights on the serpent's 7-inch mark. As the old saying goes, if you want to kill a snake, you must strike its heart. This world appears to be no exception to that rule, as that specific spot serves as the serpent's heart. A hit there is almost certainly fatal. He attacks without hesitation. Following a series of continuous, heavy impacts, the serpent's screams grow increasingly agonizing as the battle nears its end. The serpent simply cannot keep up with his speed. Because of its massive size, it has become little more than a living target for his relentless assault. Even when it tries to resist, its tail strikes only empty air. Consequently, there is only one inevitable path remaining for this great serpent. With a sharp crack, half of his limb pierces through the serpent's vital heart. It's finished. A slight smile plays on his lips as he surveys his work. He is quite satisfied with this battle. It was a good test of his spiritual energy, though he notes there are still many areas where he could improve. Looking down at the fallen beast, at this massive serpent, he feels a surge of overwhelming joy. His adaptability talent is proving to be quite terrifying, allowing him to evolve through every challenge he faces. It easily raises his various resistances. He clicks his tongue in wonder, and we can almost see the image forming in his mind, a version of himself with every resistance maxed out. Imagine how terrifying he would be. Bathing in molten lava doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. If that day truly comes, he might just become a god. He whispers to himself, filled with a sense of anticipation. This talent of his is truly frightening, and not just in an ordinary way. To be honest, it's a bit overwhelming. They say that smaller creatures have a stronger ability to adapt to their surroundings. That refers to their resilience against unfavorable factors. When it comes to things like resistances, naturally, the more he has and the stronger they are, the better. If every resistance could reach its maximum value, he might not be invincible, but surviving in this world would be more than easy. Once he realizes his adaptability can do this, he decides to incorporate the grinding of these resistances into his training plan. It won't just be fire and poison resistance, either. Cold resistance, corrosion resistance, he wants to stack them all. We notice a new blue screen appearing in the lower right corner of his interface. This is his resistance panel. At the moment, his fire resistance stands at 0.1, while his poison resistance is at 0.6. This is already quite impressive, considering it's only the beginning. He has plenty of time ahead of him. If he focuses on it, his resistances will surely stack up quickly. But where is the true terror of high resistance most clearly seen? Simply put, if his fire resistance keeps growing, he won't just be immune to flames. His ability to withstand fire-based power will increase exponentially. In a normal situation, a fireball capable of melting him would now likely only singe a layer of his skin. That is the true power of resistance. But for now, he swallows hard and carefully pulls his limbs out of the great serpent's corpse. This massive body is a treasure trove, you see. Its blood is especially valuable. Although it is highly toxic, it isn't lethal to him, making it the perfect tool to boost his poison attribute. He tells himself that once he can bathe in serpent blood without worry, the first stage of his poison resistance training will be complete. With that thought, he begins to spit out a vast amount of spider silk, wrapping the entire serpent's corpse. Bit by bit, he starts dragging it back toward the Silkbone Cave. That is his true base of operations. After all, time passes slowly, and by the time midnight arrives, he has successfully brought the serpent's body home. Not only that, but he finds a massive rock within the cave. Using his sharp limbs, he carves out a hollow space the size of a large basin. Then, tilting his body forward, he aims a sharp strike directly at the serpent's neck, delivering a heavy blow to begin his work. He stabs downward, and with a sharp crack, a torrent of crimson blood erupts like a spring, surging relentlessly into the hollowed-out basin. The continuous sound of corrosion fills the air, as if the very stone might give way. Fortunately, the rock he chose seems to be made of sturdier stuff. It is hard enough to resist melting immediately. While the serpent's venom is terrifying, the toxins within its blood are, thankfully, slightly less potent. The liquid only manages to singe the outer layer of the serpent's own skin, which isn't as extreme as he imagined. Thus, the basin holds the blood quite well. As he stares at the pool of crimson blood, he falls silent for a long moment. Then, a flicker of cold determination flashes deep within his eyes. He tells himself that if he cannot be ruthless with himself, he can never hope to be ruthless with his enemies. Slowly, he begins to lower his limbs. He dips them into the blood pool inch by inch. Immediately, a searing pain shoots through him, accompanied by that relentless, sizzling sound of corrosion. A silent cry of shock echoes in his mind, but his attention is quickly drawn to the status screen. A notification chimes. Poison resistance plus 0.2. The chimes continue. Poison resistance plus 0.2. And again, another notification informs him that his poison resistance has increased by another 0.2. With every chime, his resistance climbs higher. He smiles inwardly, realizing that this painful method is actually working exactly as he hoped. He notices the pain in his limbs beginning to subside. This isn't an illusion. As his resistance grows, his body is literally adapting to the corrosive blood. His ability to withstand the toxin is strengthening. Though the progress feels slow, the results are undeniable. A short while later, he decisively pulls his limbs out of the pool. These are his primary tools for hunting, after all, and he cannot afford to let them be permanently damaged. If he overdoes it and ruins his body, everything will be for naught. Moderation is key. He tells himself that once he feels he's reached his limit, that's enough. It reminds us of those old martial arts stories where heroes train their palms in hot sand. Mastery isn't achieved overnight. It requires patience. Since he has plenty of time, he isn't in a rush. Besides, he is far more interested in the serpent's gallbladder, which must be a rare treasure. With that thought, he turns his attention back to the serpent's carcass. It isn't just the gallbladder. Even the venom fangs could be kept as trophies. He believes in using every part of his prey. What can be eaten, he eats. What cannot be eaten, he finds another use for elsewhere. It's a bit of a shame he's a spider. If he were human, he wouldn't mind making a set of clothes from the hide. Still, things are going well. After finishing with the serpent, he looks toward the deepest part of the cave, where several animal hides have been laid out to create a makeshift bed. Inside the lair, we see how he has used the hides of his prey to make his spider nest far more comfortable. It is warmer now, and as the night deepens, the cave remains as quiet as ever, unless one looks to the very back. There, we find a black spider the size of a basketball, lying quietly and seemingly contemplating the meaning of life. Well, perhaps not life itself, but rather the planning of his training and how to use the blood pool for poison resistance. He decides that once every day or two is best. Any more than that might be too much for his body to handle. He whispers this realization to himself in the silence of the cave. Until that lingering sense of numbness completely fades, he knows he shouldn't bathe in the toxic blood again. This isn't his past life. After all, there are no hospitals here if something goes wrong, so he must be cautious. Carefulness is what ensures survival, and he's beginning to understand that his adaptability talent has its own limits. If he rushes to increase his resistance, he might just end up playing with fire and burning himself alive. It isn't exactly a flaw in the skill, but it is certainly a danger he must remain vigilant against. He then considers his webs. Any enemy of the same level caught in his silk would find themselves in deep trouble. The size of the web depends on his weaving speed. The larger the net, the longer it takes to create. He estimates that a 10-meter web would take at least half a minute, which is far too long for a fast-paced battle. A massive web simply won't appear in the blink of an eye, whereas a small, plate-sized net only takes a few breaths. In a regular fight, he sticks to these smaller nets. There's no need for anything larger, especially since his silk is limited. It cannot be replenished instantly, and if he wastes it on a giant web, he won't be able to use his other silk abilities. For instance, we hear a sudden whistle of air as a projectile strikes a distant boulder with a sharp crack. A hole the size of a bullet appears in the rock. This is another way he uses his silk, firing it like a deadly shot. It possesses a truly terrifying amount of destructive power, proving that even a spider's thread can be a lethal weapon. This power is likely another application of his silk, though he hasn't fully refined it yet. Simply put, he lacks the mastery to make it a reliable skill. Once he grows accustomed to it, this technique will significantly boost his agility, a prospect that brings a small, expectant smile to his face. However, that isn't the end of it, as the god-level enhancement of his silk grants it infinite possibilities for further development. His silk is fundamentally different from that of an ordinary spider. After all, could any normal spider move its webs with a mere thought? With a single mental command, several translucent threads begin to swirl around him like a graceful dance, almost as if they were celebrating. He senses he can control these threads with even greater precision. We see him wonder if they can be pulled as taut as piano wire. As he ponders this, he is suddenly startled to see those crystalline threads actually begin to stiffen and straighten on their own. In the ensuing silence, he tentatively manipulates the threads, sending them gliding toward a distant target without needing any anchor point. Moving at high speed, the silk slices through a thick branch with a terrifying, silent efficiency that would make anyone shiver. After completing this maneuver, however, he feels a rare wave of exhaustion, not a physical fatigue, but something deeper. He whispers to himself, wondering if controlling the silk so freely consumes his mental energy. To be honest, it was a logical conclusion. Mental power is invisible and intangible, yet it is very real in this world. He has seen the term mentioned frequently in the chat channels. Muttering the words, mental power, he shifts his focus to his status window, specifically looking at the spirit attribute within his mental stats. His spirit stat is currently 12, while an average person's is 10, meaning he is slightly smarter, and this stat likely governs his mental energy. With a faint smile, he decides to spend 2,000 evolution points to develop his brain, a plan he has been considering for some time. Now that his evolution points have reached 2200, he finally has enough to turn this idea into a reality. He speaks the command directly, stating he wishes to consume the points to enhance his brain, and immediately, text begins to float before him. The system asks for confirmation to spend the 2,000 points. With a firm nod, he makes his final decision. Once he confirms, a string of warnings pops up, stating the process will take 10 minutes and advising him to find a safe location. The final warning notes that the brain enhancement will involve unbearable pain, and he should prepare himself. And then, the process begins. Not long after, we see that he has no time to make further preparations before the process begins. His stats begin to climb, point by point, while a terrifying pain starts to radiate through his mind. He knows he cannot lose consciousness, especially after a new system prompt appears regarding the brain's development. The prompt explains that development depends on his mental endurance. If he falters, the process will simply stop. He grits his teeth, determined to hold on, knowing from his past life that such an opportunity is rare. Time passes slowly, and by the time half the night has vanished, he feels as though years have gone by. His body is drenched in sweat as he gasps for air, finally reaching the end of this mental ordeal. He focuses his gaze on his spirit attribute and sees it has reached 21, a massive 9-point increase. A satisfied smile plays on his lips. Though he lacks a comparison, he senses that 9 points is exceptional. However, the toll is heavy, and an overwhelming wave of drowsiness suddenly washes over him. His consciousness slips into chaos, and his body collapses onto the damp ground as he falls into a deep sleep. As he sleeps, he is unaware of the notifications flashing across his light screen, announcing his new mental threshold. Having surpassed 20 spirit points, he has gained the detection ability to gauge the strength of weaker monsters. The system even notes a chance to peer into their skills, while his mental resistance begins to tick upward. It is a small but significant gain of 0.2, marking his entry into a different kind of power. This is a realm beyond the physical, where he will truly begin to obtain strength that transcends the mundane. When the first light of dawn finally pierces the mist, he slowly opens his eyes, feeling the weight of exhaustion. And yet, beneath that fatigue is an indescribable clarity, as he realizes his mind has fundamentally changed. A strange sensation takes root in his heart. He can't quite explain it, but his thoughts are moving much faster. Things that once took seconds to process now resolve in an instant. This, he realizes, is true brain development. We notice he has also realized something else. The world seems to have slowed down significantly, or rather, it is his own speed of thought. It has indeed accelerated, and according to the laws of relativity, his faster thinking is equivalent to the world slowing down. In a fight, this is everything. When an enemy attacks, he will have more time to think and more opportunities to counter. At this realization, a faint smile touches his lips. It seems spending 2,000 evolution points to develop his brain was well worth it. The brain is, after all, the most mysterious and terrifying of frontiers. With a quiet sigh of amazement, we see him turn his attention to the notification bar. Good heavens, there is a mountain of alerts waiting for him. He has actually gained 2 new abilities. The first is an active skill called Detection, allowing him to see the level of monsters with weaker spirits. The second is a passive ability providing resistance against mental attacks, essentially, mental fortitude. It seems his Night of Agony was not in vain. His mental resistance has reached 5, the highest among all his attributes. To be honest, it is a fair trade for the pain he endured. After spending those 2,000 points, he is left with only 200. However, the investment is absolutely justified given the results. In his past life, the depths of the brain were a realm humans could hardly hope to reach. Now, as he reflects, he finds he can recall blurry details. He can even recite ancient poems he had long since forgotten. One can only imagine just how formidable this mental enhancement truly is. Having tasted success, he now considers strengthening his other senses, such as his eyes and ears. It is a tempting prospect, naturally. Enhancing his eyes should vastly improve his vision, perhaps even awakening a specific ocular ability. His ears, meanwhile, would grant him superior hearing. As for the next stage of brain development, there is no rush. The cost for the next upgrade has jumped to a staggering 20,000 points. The price increases every time, making a second brain enhancement nearly impossible in the short term, which, in a way, makes his next choice easier. Strengthening other areas is the logical priority. This is his strategy for using evolution points, a comprehensive, all-around enhancement of his being. He aims to become powerful enough to be flawless. Others could never achieve this, as evolution points are limited, but he is different. His system allows him to break through automatically once a skill reaches maximum proficiency. This saves him a fortune in points that others must spend. Consequently, with the same amount of points, he can strengthen more of his body and unlock more abilities. It is the advantage of being one step ahead. As his thoughts settle, he begins to continue tempering his various abilities. And through this constant refinement, his many skills begin to evolve. His skill proficiency continues to climb steadily, and not long after, a notification chimes to inform him that his limb skill has reached 100%. The system suggests he can spend 1,000 evolution points to upgrade his level 1 limbs to level 2, and as the text flickers before him, he realizes with a start that this particular skill is already maxed out. He hadn't been paying close attention, but this is certainly a welcome development. As for the second prompt, he chooses to selectively ignore the request for 1,000 points. To be honest, that seems a bit like an unnecessary luxury. After all, 1,000 evolution points is quite a steep price to pay for a single upgrade. Suddenly, a cold mechanical voice rings in his ears, announcing that since his limb proficiency is at maximum, the breakthrough will begin automatically. He wonders if this is the true power of his system, allowing his abilities to transcend their limits automatically. He watches as the text on his panel shifts. His attributes now display level 2 limbs. These appendages, once like simple scythes, can now partially change shape to become even more terrifying blades. They can even revert to their original form as spider legs. With a flash in his eyes, he feels a mysterious new power surging through his limbs. With a simple thought, he decides to test this enhanced limb ability. We hear a sudden, low hum as the transformation begins to take place. His limbs extend, growing longer and more slender, shimmering with a cold, sharp light that is enough to make anyone shudder with fear. Now, his limbs truly resemble a set of razor-sharp weapons. This is the power of level 2, and it is, quite frankly, a bit intimidating to behold. With a faint smile, he raises one of these new limbs and strikes out toward a massive boulder standing nearby. He notices that when not in use, his limbs look almost exactly as they did before, perhaps just a bit thicker than a standard spider's legs. This appears to be their natural state, but if he wishes, these legs can instantly transform into the sharpest of blades to cut through anything in his path. He chooses to keep them in their original spider leg form, naturally, for the sake of concealment. If others saw those scythe-like blades, they would immediately be on guard. But if he appears to have ordinary spider legs, no one will suspect a thing. Then, once he gets close enough with those seemingly harmless legs, they can suddenly transform into lethal weapons for a fatal blow. This is exactly the kind of tactical advantage he was hoping for. He hadn't expected that upgrading the skill would allow him to revert to his original appearance, which makes hiding his true strength much easier. He is pleasantly surprised by the versatility of level 2. If used correctly, this ability to change forms will be perfect for catching his enemies off guard. Life as a spider is both monotonous and strangely interesting. It is monotonous because every day follows the same routine of hunting, cultivating, and sleeping. Yet, it is interesting because he can truly feel himself growing stronger day by day, and every morning brings encounters with different prey. These encounters are quite pleasant for him, like right now, as a series of low growls echo through the air. A white, fox-like creature stands with its fur bristling, its eyes locked onto him. This fellow has sharp senses. It has likely sensed how terrifying he is. With a quiet smile, he decides to test his appraisal ability. Race, Wind Fox. Rank, Level 9. Evaluation, a creature that comes and goes like a shadow, possessing extreme speed and specializing in swift movements. As we watch him stare, his eyes brighten slightly. Such a small fox is actually a level 9 monster, only 2 levels lower than himself, and it excels in speed. He feels a slight sense of helplessness. Since reaching level 10, his leveling speed has slowed down significantly. It has been 3 days, and he has only managed to climb 1 level to reach level 11. Fortunately, during this time, he has mastered many of his new abilities. His combat power has increased by more than just a notch. Now, looking at this small fox, he decides to have a little fun with it. However, while he gazes at the fox, he has no idea that the creature's mind is on the verge of a total collapse. It laments its terrible luck. To encounter such a terrifying monster right after evolving is truly unfortunate. The fox cries out inwardly, feeling incredibly uneasy. As it turns out, this fox is actually a player. In her past life, she was a high-efficiency sprinter and a national-level athlete. Additionally, given her high beauty standards, she was once considered a goddess. She never imagined she would end up in this hellish world. Luckily, she was good at running and was reborn as a wind fox, which allowed her to stand out among the many other players. It is worth noting that her innate talent is danger perception. Compared to ordinary players or monsters, her intuition is far more acute. This talent has allowed her to thrive in this forest, reaching level 9 in just 1 month. She had hoped to practice her skills after this breakthrough, but she never expected to run into a predator like this. To be honest, her timing couldn't have been worse. She tells herself she must run. Her danger perception is screaming at her, sending a clear message. If she doesn't leave now, she likely won't survive. Slowly backing away, the wind fox keeps its blue eyes fixed intently on the spider, waiting for an opening. In the very next instant, a sudden sound of breaking air cuts through the silence as the wind fox sees a dark shadow lunging toward it. With a startled cry in her heart, the wind fox doesn't hesitate to activate her wind walk ability, wrapping her limbs in swirling gales. This allows her to significantly increase her speed. As we watch her move, a sudden gust of wind erupts, and she immediately tries to retreat. However, before she can get very far, a chill washes over her soul. She instinctively looks back, and what she sees is truly terrifying. The wind fox watches in horror as the spider's once ordinary-looking legs suddenly transform into razor-sharp sides that strike out at her. She barely manages to dodge, only to notice a massive tree nearby suddenly split in two, revealing a cut as smooth as a mirror. Her entire body trembles violently. To be honest, she is completely shaken. If that blow had landed, there would be no hope of survival. She wonders how such a brutal monster could exist in this forest. Naturally, she realizes she hates spiders more than anything as her eyes well up. In her mind, she is still just an ordinary girl, perhaps a bit prettier than most and good at running. But she can't understand why this is happening. She truly doesn't want to die. Feeling an indescribable sense of grievance, the wind fox continues to desperately dodge the black spider's spiritual slashes. Yet, in this moment, she makes a startling realization. The black spider doesn't actually seem to have any intention of killing her. While its attacks are terrifying, each one narrowly misses her fur by a hair's breadth. This isn't just her quick reflexes at work. It is simply that the spider chooses not to kill her. Had it truly wanted her dead, she would have been a cold corpse at the first strike. Her female intuition makes her realize this truth. But a moment later, a new thought occurs to her, and her expression suddenly freezes. She wonders if this creature could actually be another player. However, in the split second that thought flashes through her mind, with a loud thud, the wind fox's entire body is sent flying backward. Unimaginable pain surges through her before she can even react. A white spider web, half a meter wide, descends to envelop her. Her heart sinks to rock bottom. She clearly overthought the situation. Her consciousness begins to fade from the intense pain. Our spider protagonist looks at the white fox lying unconscious within his web. He feels a bit helpless. To be honest, it isn't difficult for him to tell if someone is a player or a genuine monster. The reaction speeds and raw power of true monsters are on a level that most recent players simply cannot match during a fight. There is a noticeable stiffness in her movements, and more importantly, we have to ask, have you ever seen a monster burst into tears after a single strike? So, from the very first blow, our spider protagonist realized this wind fox was a player, and a rather emotionally fragile one at that. Thinking of this, his gaze focuses on something around the wind fox's neck that looks like a necklace. This isn't something an ordinary monster would possess. It is, in fact, a player's mark. Not long ago, he saw a suggestion in the group chat for players to wear decorations like necklaces or even tattoos. This way, when players encounter one another, they can easily identify their own kind. To be honest, it's quite a clever idea. After all, as fellow humans from Earth, it's best not to become enemies if there's no conflict of interest. According to some high IQ players, their true enemy should be this entire otherworldly realm. Yes, they are at war with the world itself. One top-tier player even said as much in the World Channel. He claimed they descended here to invade, acting as the fourth calamity, and that their collective mission is to grow in power while conquering this land. Therefore, their enemies are all intelligent life forms in this world. His theory has many holes, but we must admit it has won over many players. In fact, this top-tier expert has already begun organizing a group through the World Channel, calling his new organization the Stars. Any player can brand themselves with a 5-pointed star pattern to signify their membership. It's a bold move, to say the least. Our protagonist suspects this fellow isn't just recruiting globally, but likely focusing on his local regional channel as well, perhaps in that expert's area. An organized group has already begun to emerge. Humanity has never lacked for brilliant minds or ambitious leaders, and there are likely many others like him. But for now, as he quietly stares at the unconscious winged fox, he feels a bit hesitant about what to do next. Well, he decides to stop overthinking it. He'll just take her back and see what happens. With that settled, he begins dragging the winged fox toward the silk-spinning valley. As he makes his way back with his captive, he finds himself reflecting on the changing landscape of this world. It is rare, but he realizes that players are likely starting to hunt with purpose and organization. If one player can't handle a target, they bring in several, or even a dozen, to get the job done together. This is how they survive. In this way, even if that star expert doesn't have a powerful innate talent, he can still grow rapidly. If he remembers correctly, that expert mentioned in the World Channel 2 days ago that he had already reached level 10. Considering our protagonist is only level 11, that's impressive. His own high level is largely thanks to his god-grade silk, which allows him to fight far above his rank and even set traps for the Pig King. In terms of pure hunting efficiency, he is likely several times faster than other players, which is how he reached level 11. Yet, this star expert is already level 10. He clicks his tongue in mild amazement. This is the true power of human ingenuity. When players combine their wisdom with the raw power of monsters, the result is far greater than the sum of its parts. Most players are still struggling to adapt, but their strength will continue to manifest as time passes. He believes that, eventually, these growing players will possess power far beyond that of true monsters. Take himself, for example. He smiles inwardly with a touch of pride. Surviving this long entirely on his own is no small feat. Among the vast sea of players, he assumes he must be one of the best. However, he doesn't realize that he's actually underestimating himself. He isn't just one of the best anymore. Aside from a few monsters who started with massive advantages, he is among the absolute strongest. We must remember that most players are still in survival mode. Forget hunting to level up. Simply staying alive is a victory. Take this winged fox. For instance, despite her level, her hunting and combat skills are truly lacking. The main reason she leveled up so quickly was actually pure luck. She happened upon the corpse of a high-level monster, which boosted her to level 9. Before that, her life was quite pitiful. To be honest, she was constantly either running away or preparing to run. If she hadn't been reborn as a winged fox, a species known for speed, and if her talent wasn't danger sense, she would have been a meal long ago. And this, unfortunately, is the reality for most players. We are seeing a clear polarization among the survivors. Those who adapt to this world grow stronger every day at a terrifying pace. Meanwhile, those who cannot adapt either become food or spend their lives as fugitives, constantly fleeing from death. Their situation is more miserable than anyone can imagine. On the World Channel, we see one player who hasn't eaten meat in 5 days. He survives on leaves and roots while living in constant terror of encountering a monster. If his mental state weren't somewhat resilient, he likely would have given up on life entirely by now. If you're enjoying the story, please don't hesitate to like, and now, let's see what happens next. Feel free to send a tip to support Mingjing and the Diandian column. This program is made possible by your support. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Our program continues. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Our story unfolds. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The journey goes on. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Stay tuned for more. Mingjing and the Diandian column. We appreciate your company. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Let us see what lies ahead. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Our story continues. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The journey unfolds. Mingjing and the Diandian column. We move forward. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Stay with us. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The path ahead awaits. Mingjing and the Diandian column. Our narrative resumes. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The segment. 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 Mingjing and the Diandian column. Mingjing and Diandian. The column. The segment. Please don't hesitate to like and share. Send a donation to support Mingjing and the Diandian column. The segment. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The segment. Mingjing and the Diandian column. The segment. Mingjing and the Diandian column.